This week, a question I was asked is, Rabbi, why is Beth Tzedec getting involved in politics? Why are we issuing statements? Why are we meeting with members of parliament? Aren't we supposed to be a synagogue and not a lobbying group? I understand that question. I really do. We are a diverse congregation. Religiously, culturally, politically, we have members who identify with every political party and others who choose no party at all. What unites us is Torah and Jewish peoplehood, a sense of obligation to one another and to the world. So let me say this clearly. Beth Tzedec does not tell anyone how to vote, which party to support, or what politics to champion. That is not our role. What we do, what we must do, is offer thoughtful, values-driven Jewish perspective on the moral issues of our time. We bring Torah and Jewish wisdom into the public square, not to dictate, but to illuminate, not to polarize, but to engage with integrity and compassion. And when we do this, we will never represent perfectly every individual view of our vast community. That's not possible. But what we must do, and always strive to do, is to model, as we've said before, machloket l'shem shamayim, principled disagreement for the sake of heaven. When we disagree, we should do so with curiosity, humility, and respect. This week's Torah reading, Parshat Shoftim, speaks directly to the tension between faith and politics. It is a portion about law, leadership, and the delicate balance between the sacred and the civic. The parsha begins with the words, Shoftim v'shotrin titen lecha b'chol sha'arecha. You shall appoint judges and magistrates in all your gates. Rashi notices that the phrase b'chol sha'arecha, in all your gates, teaches that the verse does not speak only to cities, but to individuals. Each of us has our own gates, our senses, our thoughts, our words, through which we interact with the world. The Torah commands us not only to create systems of justice externally, but to build systems of discernment internally. This teaching reframes the entire parsha. Law, governance, and civic structure are essential, but they are never enough to guarantee morality. No system, no government, no political platform can make us righteous if we lack the internal capacity to discern right from wrong. Later, the Torah imagines a time when Israel will ask for a king, but even then, it limits the king's power. Levilti rum levavo me'achav, so that his heart not be raised above his brothers, v'karov vo kol yemei chayav, and he shall read the Torah all the days of his life. The king must carry a Torah at all times. Leadership in Torah is never absolute. It is always accountable to law, to ethics, to the people, and to God. The parsha then speaks of prophets, those charged with telling truth to power. Prophets are not rulers. They are not pundits. They are moral voices, calling leaders and communities to their highest moral values. And when those truths, or rather even when those truths, are uncomfortable. The Ramban, Nachmanides, teaches that prophecy is given not for personal glory, but for the sake of the people, to elevate society and to hold leaders to account. Judaism has never imagined that faith should be locked away in the private sphere. From Jeremiah counseling kings, to Hillel teaching in the marketplaces of Jerusalem, to Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, marching with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Selma, Alabama, our tradition insists that religion is not just about prayer and ritual. In fact, it's really not about prayer and ritual at all. Prayer and ritual are simply a means to moral action in the world. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Zichrono Livracha, captured this beautifully when he said, "Religion belongs in the public square, not as power, but as conscience, not to enforce the will of God on others, but to remind us all of the dignity of the human person, the sanctity of life, and the call to justice." This week, members of our executive committee and rabbis sat down with Member of Parliament Leslie Church, who represents our riding, to share our concerns about Canada's potential recognition of a Palestinian state. Let me be clear about something very important. We are not rejecting a two-state solution. We are not opposing Palestinian national aspirations. We know and believe that a just and lasting peace will one day require the reconciliation of two states, two entities for two people, living side by side, God willing, in safety and in dignity. What we are saying, and what we told Leslie Church, is that at this moment, we believe that a unilateral declaration of Palestinian statehood is dangerous. It is dangerous because it rewards the terrorism of October 7th. Hamas, which committed those atrocities, still holds hostages, still fires rockets, still publicly calls for more massacres. It's dangerous because such recognition does not meet the international legal criteria for statehood. And it is dangerous because, as we have seen here in Canada, including just yesterday and the day before even, many of those purporting to advocate for Palestinians have also used that advocacy to excuse or even enable anti-Semitism and violence against Jews. Our message was that Canada should continue any such recognition on 5 non-negotiable steps: the release of all hostages, the disarmament of Hamas and affiliated groups, internationally supervised elections excluding terrorist organizations, independence from UNRWA, and a commitment to democratic principles and the protection of minorities. Member of Parliament Church, to her credit, listened carefully. She acknowledged the geopolitical pressures at play, the conversation happening within the government and among allies, and the complexity of balancing diplomacy, security, and principle. She shared that she has communicated our concerns to the Prime Minister and that the conversation about conditions and accountability is ongoing. So why do we engage? Because Judaism calls us to bring our values into the world. Because silence in the face of significant moral questions is not neutrality, it is abdication. But engagement does not mean uniformity. Ours is a broad and diverse community. On matters of foreign policy, on how to achieve peace in Israel and security for Jews in Canada, there will be, and there ought to be, a range of opinions. That is healthy. That is Jewish. That is machloket l'shem shamayim. So what does Shoftim then teach us about the relationship between politics and religion? It teaches us that there need to be checks and balances, that leaders must be humble and accountable. In the Canadian context, that means holding our officials to their commitments, whether on combating anti-Semitism, supporting security for our institutions, or ensuring that Canadian foreign policy reflects both realism and moral clarity. It means that there needs to be a prophetic voice. We are not called to be silent. We are called to speak with integrity, even when our voices are small. As Rabbi Sachs reminds us, the prophetic voice does not dominate, it guides, it inspires, it uplifts. It reminds us that there needs to be communal responsibility. Justice is not someone else's business. Torah tells us, you shall appoint judges and officers in all of your gates. Every community has a role to play in creating a just society. This is where Rashi's insight on Sha'arecha, your gates, becomes particularly powerful in the month of Elul. Religion and politics, law and government, political systems, they are essential. But laws can set boundaries. Systems can punish wrongdoing, but they cannot create a moral heart. Rashi teaches that every person has gates, the eyes, the ears, the mouth, the heart, through which we take in and respond to the world. Appointing judges and officers at those gates is about self-regulation, discipline, and internal morality. This is the work of Elul, to examine our gates. What words are we letting out into the world? What voices are we allowing in? Where do we need greater self-control, humility, or courage? Because Judaism, at its core, is about cultivating the moral strength to choose what is right, not only when the law compels us, but when no one is watching. In the weeks ahead, I invite us, therefore, each to do three things. Stay informed and engaged. Read, learn, and especially seek out different perspectives, rooted in fact, grounded in respect. Support advocacy rooted in values, whether it's speaking against anti-Semitism, working for refugee resettlement, or supporting Israeli and Palestinian voices committed to coexistence. Find your place in the work at hand. And finally, model sacred disagreement. Let our conversations in the halls of Beth Tzedec, in our homes, and in the public square be marked by humility, curiosity, and courage. When we met with Leslie Church this week, one thing was clear. Our voices matter. They matter not because we are trying to be partisan, but because we are trying to be faithful. Faithful to the Torah, to the Jewish people, to Canada, and to a vision of a world redeemed by justice and peace. This is the balance that Shoftim calls us to hold, to pursue justice, to hold leaders accountable, and to bring our sacred values into the civic sphere, not to divide, but to heal, not to dominate, but to illuminate. May we, in this season of reflection and renewal, find the courage to speak with clarity and humility, to act with integrity and compassion. May the hostages be redeemed, and may there be peace. Amen. We return to our Sidurim, page 155. We rise as we're able.